name is Jake Hines. I own and operate Prism Supply, and this is my 1950 Harley-Davidson Panhead. So I bought this bike, I want to say February of 2015, so almost 9 years I've had this bike. This is actually the bike that I've had the longest over any other motorcycle. It was my second Harley-Davidson. Before this, I had a 1977 Shovelhead, and when I was riding my 1977 Shovelhead, I was really getting into the Harley-Davidson culture and Harley-Davidson community, and I remember seeing photos from the 40s and 50s of these guys that were riding stockish bikes or bobber bikes, and I remember seeing them in like denim pants and a white t-shirt and engineer boots, and I was just like, that's it. Those guys get it. That's what inspires me. And so from that point on, I was like, all right, I can't wait to have a stock bike. I was going to school for mechanical engineering, and I remember getting a phone call in the middle of the day, and it was from one of my friends, Frodo, which is a local swap meet guy, and he was just like, hey Jake, are you still looking for a Panhead? Well, my buddy Spud has one for sale. It's a basket case, but it's all original parts. It's all there, and he has to get rid of it today. I didn't ask any questions. I didn't know why he had to get rid of it today. That didn't matter to me. So I was in the middle of my school day, trying to figure out how to get $6,000 or $7,000, which I had to borrow. I ended up leaving school, going to get the money, and driving to Greensboro, North Carolina, which is where this bike was. I show up at this guy, Spud's house, and I'm by myself because I had to leave in such a hurry to go get it. And I'm kind of nervous. He's kind of an intimidating guy, not super personable. There's a gun strapped to his hip. I'm just like, here I am, I'm kind of a kid, and I'm showing up to this dude's house with cash. I hope everything's gonna be okay. Sure enough, we really hit it off, and I ended up getting the bike. I was stoked on it. I didn't really know what I was getting into. Didn't have any money to buy the parts that I needed to finish the bike, so I just kind of let it sit for a year. And during that year, it was sitting on the lift at my brother's house, which is the original Prism shop. It was really cool because it was next to our Born Free Knucklehead. It was Born Free 8 that we were building. And then it was my stock-ish Panhead, this bike. And then next to that was my buddy Derek's like killer Panhead chopper. So we were building these 3 killer bikes out of my brother's shop. And here we were, just maybe 25 or 26. I don't know, that was like a really special moment, just being able to like look at this small garage behind his house and be like, this is sick. We're working on 3 of the coolest bikes right now. I remember finishing it on a Wednesday or Thursday night and wanting to drive to Wilmington, North Carolina, which is 3.5 hours, 4 hours from here, in a car. So on a Panhead, 6.5, 7 hours. I built the engine, or I assembled the engine, and I just ordered V-twin rings and didn't measure anything, and I just kind of put it together because that's all I knew. I was like, oh, I can order these rings from V-twin and they're gonna fit perfectly with the pistons and the bore and blah, 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 blah. So I put it together and the bike just starts smoking like a chimney. But I was just so amped to ride it, I didn't care. I think I finished it on a Thursday, and literally the next day, Friday morning, woke up, hopped on this bike and drove it to Wilmington without doing a shakedown ride at all. A couple things came from that trip. One, the reason I was going to Wilmington was to visit my buddy Wes and Potter and Big Scott, and we were doing a podcast, and that was called Riders on the Norm. That was one of the original motorcycle podcasts. And then while I was there, I remember working from a coffee shop one day, and I just had this idea of designing a petcock. There wasn't a petcock to me that was slim and clean. It wasn't a petcock that I felt comfortable running. Like, I wanted to make something that I was super stoked on. And so I remember on that trip, after I rode this bike to Wilmington, is the time that I designed our current petcock, which is now our Prism Supply petcock that's been around for 8 years now. So that trip was incredible for me. The bike made it fine. It just smoked. It leaked a lot of oil. Every gas stop, I was topping the oil tank off with oil. Of course, when I got back, I fixed all the issues. So this bike's been through a couple different versions of it. This is by far my favorite one. It's like, when I originally built it, it didn't have the exact style that I wanted, or maybe I just didn't know like lines and flow of things. So I was stoked to have a stock-ish bike, but at some point I knew I wanted to change it. To kind of give you an overview of the bike, so it's got a 19-inch front wheel and a 16-inch rear wheel. In the second version of this, I put this aftermarket Vard-inspired front end on it. I just think it looks killer. This is a popular front end. During the Knucklehead era, everybody was running Springers, and this was like the original hydraulic front end that people would put on. So they would take their Springers off and put these Vard front ends on it. Stock wishbone frame, still has a stock rake, It's a 1950 motor. It's an EL, so it's a 61 cubic inch, and it's still a true 61 cubic inch, and it's slow. It is so slow. Stock transmission, stock oil tank, rocker clutch, tank shift, Linkert carburetor. The exhaust is stock and I modified it. The rear muffler is actually from a K model. My friend Dean gave me that taillight and the dice shifter on the other side, as well as the kicker pedal. I really love the North Carolina decal on the side. My buddy Josh gave that to me. These are Flanders style handlebars. Still has the internal cables, hand controlled. On this side is throttle, and then on the other side is to retard and advance the timing. I got the speedometer rebuilt and I was like, sick, I'm gonna have a speedometer. Took the tanks off, routed the cable, did the whole thing that you're supposed to do. And after I routed the cable, I realized that there was no speedo drive in the transmission. But hey, I guess whenever I rebuild the transmission, I'll put a speedo drive in it and we'll be good to go. I remember loading it in the back of my truck and just seeing the sheet metal that came with it, and it was just this awful blue color, and I could not wait to paint it. So the first time I painted the original Panhead fender, it had diamonds on the top of it. And so if you look at the front of the bike, you can see where these lines kind of transition together to make a diamond. And I knew I wanted the same thing on the fender, and so it kind of like kept this diamond theme. I really liked this white and this red together, and I actually got the paint from Tractor Supply. Spray painted it and eventually aged it to make it look how it is now. And some of that, it's like just normal, natural from riding it. So then with the second revision, I did away with the diamonds on the top and just kind of split it where the chrome trim is. So as far as like the look of it goes, I'm super pleased. To me, there's really not much that I want to touch there. What I would like to do is get the engine rebuilt, get the transmission rebuilt. It leaks oil everywhere and it smokes everywhere. I mean, I know all Harleys leak, but this one's excessive. But it runs and rides, so that's all I can ask for. I guess my goal with this build was just to make a stock bike slim down, AKA a bobber. I have no plans to sell this bike. My kids come in my house garage here and play on it. I really hope that when my kids are into the scene, if not, that's okay too, but if so, then this is gonna be for them.